Welcome back to class, great Agri students. I am Dr. Abayomi Samuel Bankole, your course facilitator for AMP 506. Yes, last week we started in a series of topics, the very first in the series of topics on animal health and diseases, and we dwelt on basic terms used in animal health and diseases. Today, we are going to topic 2, which says factors affecting the health status of animals. Yes, that's what we'll be dealing with today. You will recall we made mention of a term called disease in our topic on the terms used in animal health and diseases. Yes, we mentioned disease in that particular class. But then there are certain factors that predispose our animals to disease conditions. That is what we want to dwell on in today's class. Now, what are these factors and how do they affect the health status of our animals? What ways can we prevent these factors from negatively affecting our animals? These are questions we intend to provide answers to as we progress in today's class. You are welcome back to class. Yes, welcome back to class. We are on topic 2, factors affecting the health status of our animals. As you are well aware, I am Dr. Abayomi Bankole. Today is October 5th, 2020. Now, we have two major objectives as we move on in today's topic. One, to identify factors that commonly influence the health status of animals. And two, to discover adequate control measures that can be taken so as to minimize the negative effect of these factors on the animals. Now, what are predisposing factors to disease? Predisposing factors to disease are those conditions that help to establish infections or support the development and or multiplication of disease-causing microorganisms or parasites. Now, these predisposing factors usually influence the health status of animals in many areas and degree. While some of these health influencing factors are controllable, others are not that easily controllable. Now, basically, there are two common classifications of these health influencing factors. Number one is environmental factors, and two, management factors. To a large extent, these factors affect our livestock depending on the type of disease condition. Let us look at these factors and how they affect the health status of our animals. We are going straight to number one, environmental factors. Environmental factors. Now, they are physical in nature. Environmental factors are physical in nature, and they influence the health status of our animal to a large degree, and they are not easily controlled on the field. However, in some sophisticated facilities of animal, depending on the species of the livestock, they may be controllable. Now, what are these factors? We'll be looking at about 6 of them today. Number one here is temperature. Can I hear you say temperature? Yes, I can hear you. Temperature, temperature. Now, our animals usually have the ability to withstand severe temperatures, and this significantly affects productivity when they are constantly exposed to high temperature for a long period. And the reason is not far-fetched. It is just because it causes stress on the animal, and anything that predisposes the animal to stress will cause the animal to come down with a disease, and temperature is a major one. So we are to prevent our animals from being unnecessarily stressed. Number two environmental factor is humidity. Yes, humidity. Now, high humidity normally promotes the growth of microorganisms, especially fungus, whereas a low humidity will result in mucous membrane irritation. Now, in poultry, humidity is very important because poultry doesn't have sweat glands, and so it is usually lost through respiratory tract. That is why you will normally see that many times our poultry birds pant a lot when there is no water. They keep panting making such a sound like that. So we have to always provide water for them so that they will maintain their normal state. Now, the third environmental factor is solar radiation. Yes, solar radiation. Now, solar radiation plays a very critical role in the increase of heat load on our animals, and it is quite important in hot, humid zones, especially in Nigeria, with the exotic animals importation and the use of exotic semen from temperate countries so as to upgrade our indigenous livestock breeds. Now, solar radiation can actually be a major problem in animals without pigmentation. However, provision of shaded pens can minimize the negative effect of solar radiation. Number four environmental factor is ventilation. Yes, ventilation. Ventilation helps in heat loss through evaporation, conduction, and convection. Now, ventilation usually assists in the supply of fresh air and the removal of toxic air from the animal's environment. Rain, that is number five environmental factor that influence our animals' health. Now, heavy rains usually cause excessive cooling for our animals, and it also produces marshy conditions where animals are kept, and this usually predispose the animals to certain conditions such as foot rot in ruminants. Now, it is good to provide good shelter and good flooring with good drainage to guide against rain effect. Number six environmental factor, and of course the last under this particular category today, is climate or the season of the year. Now, climate or season of the year normally influence our animals' health by having a bearing on the kind of infectious agent or parasite that normally predominate at any point in time. A good example is helminthosis, that is helminth infection. This condition is usually common during the rainy season because of the temperature and moisture effect, which largely determine the parasite ability to survive outside its host. Now, let us go to the second category of the health influencing factors, and that is management factors. Management factors. The number one under this is hygiene. We are going to consider 5. One is hygiene. Now, good hygienic practice is a very good way of reducing risk of disease in a flock. Now, simple practices such as cleaning of the animal's environment and constant changing of flooring and bedding can be a very good way to reduce contamination and parasitism. Now, removal of feces from the environment of the animal is a good way of reducing gastrointestinal parasite, and these usually break the cycle, that's the parasite cycle to be complete, and by that way they cannot have effect on the animal. It is also important that feed and the water sources remain uncontaminated. Let's go to number 2 management factor, and that is nutrition. What did I say? Yes, I can hear you say nutrition. Nutrition, yes. Now, adequate feeding of all classes of animals, I mean livestock animals, is very, very important. And this will help to increase the disease resistance of the animal, and consequently will have maximum production. In poor nutrition, we usually have poor health of animals. When you don't feed your animals properly, you end up having low immune system in the animals, resulting in health conditions. Now, usually we have poor feed resource base for our livestock in Nigeria, and this is occasioned by the seasonal feed shortage. Now, and this affects our livestock by exacerbating their health condition, because like I said earlier, if you don't feed properly, there will be low immunity, and by that way it is easy for microorganisms to penetrate through our animals. Now, to guide against poor nutrition during dry season, it is important to provide supplemental feeding to our livestock. Now, in poultry, high cost is a challenge, high cost of feed ingredients, and this usually leads to farmers looking for cheap feeds to feed their animals, and of course that will result into various health challenges, malnutrition, and co. Number 3 management factor is type of housing. Now, there are different categories of housing that can be used for different livestock animal. Now, the particular housing system that is being used depends on the method of raising the animal, which also have a bearing on the rate and severity of infections, especially parasitic infection. In ruminants, for instance, animals that are kept where pasture is suppressed usually have low risk of contacting diseases of gastrointestinal parasitism. Now, in other words, absence of pasture makes the environment not conducive for parasite multiplication. Now, for animals on pasture, the level of pasture contamination also depends on the factors such as the concentration of the animals and, of course, the duration of time spent by those animals on the pasture. The climate also and the weather condition, among other things, will determine how the animals will be affected negatively. Now, it is very important to take note that housing choices and the method of raising livestock has to be such that it reduces infection risk and, of course, it enhances our animals' health status. Let us go to number 4 management factor, and that is ecology or pest and wildlife. Most parasites that transmit diseases, they utilize intermediate hosts to complete their life cycle, and these most of the time are parasites. Now, this intermediate host, it is very important that these intermediate hosts are eliminated so that the disease will not be able to have a means of, the parasite will not be able to have a means of completing their life cycle, and of course they will not be able to cause disease to our animals. Now, these pests are a major problem when we talk of ruminants owned by nomads. Now, because close contact between these animals and wildlife while they graze them leads to constant exchange of parasites. Now, lastly, today we'll be looking at the 5th management factor, which is introduction of new animals or high number of animals kept in a confinement. Now, there always exists this risk of introducing new parasites into a herd when additional new animals are brought to the herd. Now, this can actually be a huge problem where replacement animals are gotten from or bought from the open market or from some neighboring farm. Now, it is very important, therefore, that any new animal to be added to an existing stock should be well quarantined at least for 2 weeks and also treated appropriately before addition. Now, the ease and risk of transmitting disease usually increase with high number of animals kept together. This is frequently due to constant contact between these animals, and consequently eases disease transmission. Animals kept in high number together usually result in high fecal accumulation within confined areas, and this encourages endoparasitism. For example, in poultry, it is advisable to always clean and disinfect houses before bringing new birds, or you allow the pens to be kept empty for a period of time before you restock the pen. Now, by way of illustration, I have just brought this up. Health influencing factors in animals. As we have discussed, we see environmental factors and the other one, management factors. So I've made a list of them here, just as we have discussed. In summary, we have successfully examined the factors that impact on the health status of our animals. We have also seen that these factors are capable of exerting a significant influence on the productivity and profitability of livestock in general by contributing to the occurrence of diseases. Finally, we have stated the importance of controlling these factors to minimize stress and ensure that our animals remain healthy for maximum productivity. In the next lesson, we will discuss the general classification of livestock. From here till we meet in the next class, I say bye bye.